Good morning, friends. This is Josh. I hope you can grab some coffee and join me this morning. It's a beautiful fall morning here in Indianapolis. We are reading through the Bible and the Quran, and I'm in Genesis chapter 7. I'm reading from the Interlinear Bible, which gives you a lot of information, but it gives you the Greek or the Hebrew, the English, and then also a word, a transliteration of the words, and the Strong's numbers, so you can do research on the language. Let's start in verse 17, the duration of the flood. And was the flood 40 days on the earth, and increased the waters, and lifted up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. Wehi Hamabul, the flood. Arbaim, 40 days. Arbaim Yom al Haris, the earth, and increased. Wayerbu Hamayim, the waters, and lifted up. Wayashai Wayeshu, and lifted up the ark. Hateba Watarim, and it rose high. Meal Heres, above the earth. And prevailed. Wayegberu, the waters. Hamayim, and increased. Wayerbu, greatly. Mead, on the earth. Al-Haras, and moved about the ark on the surface of the waters. Watelek Hateba al-Penne Hamayim, and the waters prevailed exceedingly on the earth. Wahamayim prevailed. Gaberu, strengthened, became powerful and mighty. Ma'ed al-Haras, and were covered all the hills high that underhold the heaven. Wekusu kal heharem, hagebohem aser tahat. It's interesting, Arabic under is tahat as well. Tahat, the whole, the heaven. Verse 20, 5 and 10 cubits upwards prevailed the waters, and were covered the mountains. Hammes Esre, Amma, Milmala, Gaberu Hamayim, Wekusu, Heharim. Verse 21. And died all flesh that moved on the earth, birds and livestock and beasts, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, and every man. Kalbasar, Haromes al-Hares, Baop, Ubabehemma, and livestock and beasts, ubahaya, ubakal, and every hasaras, creeping thing, hasaras, al-haras, wekal, hadam, that creeps on the earth, and every man. Verse 22. Everything that had the breath, kul asar, nismat, of the spirit, ruh of life, hayim, in its nostrils, be'appa, all that was dead on the land, mikal aser baharabba, metu, so he destroyed, wayimma et kal, all living things, hekum, which were on the face of the ground, aser al benne, hedamma, from man and livestock and creeping things, me'adam ad behemma, ad remez weyed, aup hasamayim, to the bird of the air, and they were destroyed, wayemahu, min hares, from the earth. And remained only Noah, wayasayer, ak Noah, waaser, itto, with him in the ark, bateba, and prevailed, wayagiberu, the waters, hamayim al, on the earth, hares, 50 and 100 days, hamisim umet yom. Well, thanks for listening in. I think what I'll do is read 17 in the New Living Translation through 24. Let's hear it in a modern translation. For 40 days the floods prevailed, covering the ground and lifting the boat high above the earth. As the waters rose higher and higher above the ground, the boat floated safely on the surface. Finally, the water covered, standing more than 22 feet above the highest peaks. All the living things on earth died, birds, domestic animals, wild animals, all kinds of small animals, and all the people. Everything died that breathed and lived on dry land. Every living thing on the earth was wiped out. People, animals, both large and small, and birds. They were all destroyed, and only Noah was left alive, along with those who were with him in the boat, and the water covered the earth for 150 years. All right, I wanted to take a look here at some of the commentary on the flood itself. The decree, chapter 6, 5 through 12. These verses form the introduction proper to the flood story. The cause for the flood is tied directly to the earlier accounts of the fall of humankind, chapter 3. Although humans had obtained the knowledge of good and evil, it had not been beneficial. They were far better off when they had to trust God for the good. The grief and pain of human sin were not something that only people felt. God himself was grieved over it. The purpose of verse 8 is to say no more than that Noah found favor with God. Verses 9 through 12 explain why God found him to be an exception. Verse 9 through 12. The flood account begins with a description of Noah being righteous, Greek, Strong's 7404. It seems that the main purpose of the story is not to show why God sent a flood, but rather why God saved Noah. Noah's righteousness is contrasted with the violence of all. The message is quite straightforward. God saved Noah because he walked with God and did not corrupt God's way. 5:22 through 24. The picture of Noah that emerges becomes a model of the kind of life that finds grace in the sight of God. It is simple obedience to God's commands and trust in his provision by faith. Hebrews 11:7. The command to build the ark, chapter 6:13 through 22. The list of specifications for the ark is not so much that we might be able to see what the ark looked like, but rather that we might appreciate the meticulous care Noah exercised as he obeyed God's will. The size and shape are described only in general terms. The word rendered ark here is an Egyptian loanword that means palace, not chest or coffin, and is a different word than ark in Exodus 2, 3, and 5. The term focuses on the structure as an abode. The exact nature of the material the ark was made from is unknown. NIV's cypress wood rests on the doubtful association of a Latin word and a Hebrew word, as well as on the fact that such wood was commonly used for shipbuilding. The exact meaning of the term remains a mystery. This wood was sealed with pitch, another rare word found only here. For a wooden vessel, the ark was enormous, but by modern standards it is comparable to a small cargo ship. The ark was constructed with 3 stories of decks of rooms, or separate compartments. It had an opening for light and a door in its side. Obviously, the structure consisted of more features than those enumerated. In this brief description, we could not conclude from the brevity of the narrative that Noah and his sons built such a vessel on their own. The command to enter the ark. Command to make the ark had been given and followed by its completion. 6:22. The next scene opens with the command to enter the ark before the coming rains. The emphasis of the section lies in the special provisions for the clean animals to be taken into the ark. The specific mention of the clean animals suggests that while in the ark, Noah and his family ate only clean meat. Leviticus 7:19 through 21. As entrance into the tabernacle was possible only with an offering of unblemished animals, so too Noah's entry into the ark is tied to his taking with him 7 pairs of every clean animal. The sacrificial importance of these clean animals is seen in 8:20 through 21. Interesting, they already had a sacrificial system well before Moses was given the law. Isn't that interesting? We also see sacrifices in play with Cain and Abel, the first children of Adam and Eve. And of course, God himself sacrifices a lamb and uses its skins to cover Adam and Eve in the garden after they sin. Very, very interesting. Sacrifice.